folks. Welcome to another episode of Cabin Adventures. Glad you guys can join. So as you guys have noticed, we've been on a little bit on a hiatus. The reason being that is that we are currently in the middle of a pandemic. We have a health pandemic going on. It's a viral disease that's going around, and we've been on lockdown for quite some time. I am fortunate enough that I have the ability to escape for a little bit and get some well-needed break time from the home and being in lockdown, and gonna head to the bush. This will be a very interesting adventure. This will be very different compared to our past adventures because I'll be alone. I mean, the main purpose of that is social distancing, keeping away from people, but as I mentioned, what we'll be doing today and throughout the weekend is kind of very different because we can't have campfires, we can't have a lot of things. So we're headed out to the Whispering Pines property for the weekend, but it'll be a very different weekend compared to what we're used to. Glad you guys can tag along and enjoy the ride. Well, we made it! As you guys can see, it's raining cats and dogs out here, so we're going to take the ATV out instead of hiking back in there, but we're going to load her up and head on out there. So we made it back to the shower house of the Whispering Pines. This is where we'll spend the night tonight. It's a bit too dreary to actually set up camp. As I'll show you guys in a quick second here. If we look outside, it's still raining cats and dogs out there. No way to really set up the tent. Thor's soaked. We're gonna set up all of our sleeping stuff here and get the wood stove going, get it nice and cozy, and start making some lunch. As you folks can see, a beautiful day out here in the cabin. Good boy. So we got the wood stove going. Try to tidy up a little bit before we set up our sleeping stuff. So even though we're roughing it a little bit, doesn't mean that we don't need to eat well. We're gonna have some blood sausage, some Polish pickles, and a little bit of horseradish. Not a typical Cabin Adventures meal, but this isn't a typical Cabin Adventures. We even have some creature comforts back here. So blood sausage is something fairly simple to make. I'm going to take it out of the packaging. We have a cast iron pan here. Essentially what it is just sausage in a different format. But put a little bit of oil on our pan here. Don't want to spill too much of that. Just going to move this around here. And let it sit there for a little bit. Come on, get food. Get food, come on. Come on. Good boy. Slowly but surely. Finished product. Let's have a bite. For you, buddy. Not for you. So you got a little bit of horseradish here and some pickle. See ya. Ooh, that was beautiful. Maybe cut it up to a smaller piece. Looking forward to this. Very good. So finally, the rain has stopped over here. So we're looking a little bit drier. We're gonna set up the tarp above here, so when it does start raining again, which is inevitable, we could be a little bit drier. And there we are. Much better. At least this way it will keep us a little bit dry. So we're using the famous Bush Buddy. Let's see what we're cooking up. Well, I don't think this is going to work out as well as we thought. Let's bring out the pocket rocket and save the day. Here we got some butter and garlic sauteing away. The Bush Buddy, unfortunately, as you can see, did not make the cut. We got the pocket rocket, saving the day here. Soon it will be time to throw some scallops on to the pan. A pinch of lemon. Some dry parsley. And a pinch of salt and pepper that was behind the camera. So the scallops are coming along, but they're releasing a lot more juices than I expected. This is the first time that I'm making scallops. So this is a little bit more of a challenge than I expected, but I think they'll be alright. We'll give them a couple more minutes just to sear a little bit and should be good to go. There we go, the finished product. Let's see how it tastes. I approve. Very good. So we finished up eating, cleaned up all the dishes. Now we're gonna go for one last check around and see how things are out here. Not sure whether this video will do its justice, but you can actually see the particles of water in the air, and it's pretty crazy because it's super duper damp, but it's not quite raining. Let's see how the frogs are. So as I say that it stops raining, it starts drizzling again. What do you think, Thor? It's time for bed? I guess this little guy wants to sleep with me tonight. Gonna move him outside. Pretty little creature he is. Well, that's all she wrote for this day. We'll catch you folks in the morning. Well, good morning, folks. Very good sleep. We had to stoke the fire a few times throughout the night, but it kept us nice and cozy. By fire, I mean the wood stove. No, it was a good night. Time to get the day cracking, get some breakfast and some coffee going. See how she goes. Well, we went from the Bush Buddy to the pocket rocket. Now we have the stove. Let's make some coffee. So we're gonna skip breakfast today. Now some of you may be thinking, blasphemy, you should never skip breakfast, but to be honest with you, I'm not really feeling it today. So we'll have some good lunch though. So it's turning out to be a beauty of a day here. We had it. Thor's whistling away. We're gonna head out to the bushcraft location a little bit. We're gonna start cleaning up and hopefully at some point in time make it out there. But I must say, the temptation to leave my little crib here is pretty low. Well, folks, I'd love to give you an update that we've been doing all sorts of things and cleaning up and whatnot, but to be honest with you, we've been throwing the ball and reading a book all day. So this is the famous bushcraft location. We're gonna set up the fire right here. Now, as I've said, unfortunately, because of this time of pandemic, we are not able to have campfire. So we will not be having a campfire. The only substitute that we will have is the Bush Buddy. But this is the spot where we will have campfire. Let's take a gander of where the tents will be. So this up here is where we will have the tents. Clear out this location. It has potential for at least 3 to 4 tents, more or less. So, and in relation to the fireplace, it's right over there. So keeping with the theme of abnormal, we're gonna have some beef tripe soup today. Should be tasty. Certainly different. Looking much, much better. A little bit of parsley, because everybody loves parsley. Well, let's give her a try. Pretty delicious. Thor's shown an interest in the tripe. Sort of. So let's take a look at the difference between dry wood, where we have nice piles of pine, compared to the wet wood that we had yesterday, where we could not start the Bush Buddy whatsoever. So once again, as previously, we're going to split up some cotton balls, dipped in some Vaseline, spread these up a little bit. These are going to be 1,000,000 degrees, but you don't want to get here. Alright. Not quite. Not quite, buddy. Not for you. Alright, I'm going to get you to back up a little bit. Start this up. So it's pretty smoky still, because it is, regardless of the situation, how nice it's been. It's still a little bit wet, but we can officially say that this has caught, and we should have a good bit of ambers to put any other wood on here. Going strong. So we got the Bush Buddy going here, as I previously mentioned, and you guys saw me setting up, but this is actually classified as a cooking instrument. So luckily we can actually use this to not only keep warm, but cook up our meals. But as you can see, it also gives a nice little flame. So we can sit beside this and not have a fire, but at the same time be in the guidelines of having a fire. Another delicious meal with a twist. Let's see what it's all about. Got some pasta carbonara, that delicious T-bone steak, some cheese, chives, and a nice little wrap. Just a quick update on this guy. Still burning away, but we're just gonna let it dim down and head on inside in a little bit. Well, we're all cozy in bed, ready to shut down for another night. We'll catch you folks in the morning. Well, good morning, folks. Not too bad of a night. A little bit chilly. Thor had to snuggle up to my sleeping bag, but no, it was a solid night of sleep. We're gonna start packing up here at the shower house and start migrating over to the bushcraft location for one night. So that should be exciting. We're gonna have some coffee first, though. So we're packing up, well, to the next spot. As you guys can see, I haven't showered for a little bit. Well, since I left. So I'm looking pretty groggy. Hopefully we actually use the shower house for its main purpose today. So gonna get that rigged up later on, but gonna do a little bit of work, a little bit of sweating beforehand. So we'll wait until we get that out of the way first, and then we'll go from there. So we finally made it back here. We're gonna set up the tent right over here, get everything going, but first we're gonna clean off the fireplace area a little bit, get that kind of rigged up and get all sweaty, and then set this up, and then we might take a shower. So I got this big guy down here. It was a bit of a nuisance. It was kind of hanging on there, but we're cleaning up. So came back just for one last roundup. I have to drop off a few things again here tomorrow, just a few things that I borrowed from the cabin, but that is all she wrote for this location. Let's head on out to the bush. Slowly but surely she's coming along. I'm using two different saws here, but slowly coming along. There isn't much left of it. I just gotta push one direction and she should be gone. Well, there she is, all down and out. Clean this guy up and then keep chugging along. What's up, buddy? So, little bit of a late lunch slash breakfast slash collaboration. We got some eggs, some chives, some kielbasa, deliciousness. So unfortunately, we had to whip out the repair kit. We got a little bit of a rip in this guy, so we had to patch him up and make sure that he's all good. So now the true test is whether he'll hold the air, but it should be okay. It should be fine. Now I'm just pressing down to make sure that the glue and the adhesive is nice and snug on there. Well, it's holding the air. Let's give it a couple of minutes and make sure that there's no leakage. Thor's ready to drive off. And there she is, the finished product. Believe it or not, but this guy took a lot less time than the actual tent. I got this up here just because it is starting to drizzle a little bit, so unfortunately, gotta have some form of protection, but all this guy just wants to do is throw the ball around. And not a moment too soon. As you guys can hear, it's coming down pretty bad. So this is the second time you folks see me putting up this North Face tent here, the Stormbreaker 2. But I must say, it is significantly more challenging compared to my previous tent, the Winterial Single Man. Great tent, but, well, we can say great tent for now. We still haven't slept in it, but on the setup scale, it's certainly more on the challenging side. This guy could do this all day. Trap it. So just a quick update, we're relaxing underneath the tarp. Unfortunately, it's been overcast and raining out throughout the entire day, so not a whole heck of a lot that we can do, but we're making the best of it, just enjoying the relaxation and the woods out here. It's been great so far. So, as I've mentioned at the beginning of the video, we are in a time of pandemic, and we are locked all in our homes, more or less. I'm fortunate enough to be able to do this. Now, a lot of people aren't. I mean, I'm practicing social distancing here, and I'm doing my best to do whatever I can. But at the same time, hopefully this ends soon, and we'll get back to normality. So the Bush Buddy, once again, to the rescue. But we're going to start it a little bit differently this time. We're going to start it with, it's an electric lighter. As you guys can see here, it kind of lights up a spark. Let's see how this guy works. I'm going to use some newspaper today. I still do have the cotton balls and Vaseline, but I figured, you know what, I brought these out to start with this guy just in case I left them, to be honest with you, but just as a backup. Let's we have some paper in here. Let's try to start it with this guy. So it's definitely lighting a flame here. Let's see whether we can, a little bit, there we go. Should ignite the rest of the paper inside there. We can start throwing some sticks on here, get this thing going. Put some more paper on there. Get that flame nice and high so we can get a decent temperature. I'm going to keep throwing paper on here just because all this wood is kind of damp. Now once again, we're being very careful because of the fire ban in place. Beating at those little tiny twigs. You can get a few to catch. We have fire. Well, I think we got her going. So that is dinner, folks. Now, what is that, you might ask? That is some goulash with rice. Now, goulash is basically beef sirloin fried up and in a light sauce, and I put a little bit of Havarti cheese that I had remaining, and obviously rice and the classic pickle. So we're going to try something a little bit different in the theme of trying different foods. We're going to have freezer dried ice cream. This is a Neapolitan, it's the astronaut ice cream. So let's have a bite and see how it tastes. It's definitely a Neapolitan color. Wow, that is pretty tasty. Basically, as the what is ice cream here moistens in your mouth, it actually tastes like ice cream. It's quite incredible. So I made it on the radio, but unfortunately the radio died, so we couldn't record it. But anyways, just having a tea before bed and then crawling into my sleeping bag. As you guys can hear, it's coming down pretty hard. It's gonna be nice and cozy in there. Well, Thor's ready to sign off, and as am I. We'll catch you folks in the morning. Well, good morning, folks. It was a bit of a wet one last night. It rained pretty much the entire night. As you can see behind me, the tent is pretty sopping wet. But anyways, the inevitable has begun. We've started packing up. Thor's just having some breakfast over there, as you can hear. But yeah, just chugging along here, slowly but surely. The motivation to get out of here is pretty low. So I want to have a quick mention on this thing. This is the Cetus Summit Thermalite Reactor. But as you guys can see here, it's a very thin material. But it's absolutely amazing what this thing can do. It can actually increase your temperature about 15 degrees. I certainly felt it. I wrapped myself around in this thing and she was pretty cozy. So great little item. Not too big because it fits into this small little knapsack here. I'm going to compress this a little bit more, but cool product. So what do you think, buddy? Want to go home? Neither do I. That's the reality. So we're gonna shake this thing as much as we possibly can off from the rain. I'm gonna have to set it up in the backyard on or spread it out inside in the next day or two so mold doesn't start to develop on it. But as you guys can see, still it's pretty wet. And that's all she wrote for this spot. We're gonna leave the tarp up. Since this is a permanent location, I figured why not. So before we leave, we're gonna set up the game cam to point at the spot, just to see whether we get any animal action. Well folks, that's all she wrote on this adventure. I want to thank you guys for joining me. This one was a little bit special. It was different, and I really needed this one. So thanks for joining. We'll catch you guys on the next adventure.